From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
A unique research project just for Iowa's farmers that might have you trimming your toenails, building a better cow,
and really do more and better things than we've ever been able to do in the past.
a look inside a new feedlot that it's hoped will answer a lot of livestock producers' questions. As levels on the mighty Mississippi continue to sink, how that's starting to impact what farmers get paid right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when blood, sweat, and tears meet rain, wind, and sun. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The issues along the Mississippi River are growing as water levels continue to drop. Portions of the major waterway have now gone weeks with little to no rain, causing barge rates to increase. Take a look at just one gauge reading in Arkansas City. The blue line is the current river level. The green line, way above it, represents normal water levels. And that red line, record low levels. And look at the river in St. Louis. The river usually hits its lowest point between November and the start of the year, but it's already hitting critically low levels right now. In fact, in St. Louis, levels are already lower than they were at any point last year. Now, last year, the river sank to minus 10.81 feet in Memphis during harvest time, and that stopped barges for 2 days, sending barge freight rates soaring to record highs. As of the start of September, barge rates had already increased to $30 per ton, and this could impact farmers' bottom lines as well, as basis has widened again in areas near the river. And if basis continues to drop, one market watcher says hedging producers will likely experience prices below their expected price, which could have a huge impact on profitability. Further south on the Mississippi River, saltwater intrusion is a big concern right now. And as Bill Weir reports, that saltwater is threatening farmland in the deep south.
In South Louisiana, folks are plenty familiar with saltwater that moves at the speed of a hurricane. But now they must also worry about saltwater that creeps, steady and invisible, toward the crops, machines, and drinking water systems of almost 1 million people.
I happen to be one who believes in the power of prayer. I'm going to ask for people to pray for rain.
After a second straight year of extraordinary drought, the not-so-mighty Mississippi is too weak to hold back the Gulf of Mexico. So the heavier saltwater is running downhill towards New Orleans in the shape of a wedge, with the toe about 15 miles in front of the kind of inundation that could threaten the health of the vulnerable and destroy everything from lead pipes to appliances. So the Army Corps of Engineers is urgently racing against time and salt with a couple different tools. This is the first of what will be many barges that can bring about 500,000 gallons of fresh water at a time. Downstream, they use it to dilute the brackish stuff as it goes into a small water plant here in Plaquemine Parish. The Corps says they can move 36 million gallons a day, but even that wouldn't be enough to save the New Orleans water supply. So they're already talking about maybe building pipelines to prop up that water system. In the meantime, the Corps is also building a big sill, like an underwater speed bump, to try to slow the wedge as it moves inland. But these are all temporary fixes. And the leader of this parish says if this is the new normal, that means parts of Louisiana will need the same kind of desalination that they use in Israel and other desert communities.
You've got one trailer would be the reverse osmosis, and the other would be the filtration system right there.
Keith Hinckley is the president of Plaquemine Parish, a spread out county of less than 25,000, now spending a fortune on desalination.
If we didn't have help from the state and the federal government, it could bankrupt the parish here. So right? Yeah. Because we're probably right now about $33 million in on this situation.
No
and
kidding.
Like I said, we're a small parish.
Just this summer, just this wedge?
Yeah, just because of this wedge.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is land that's familiar with hurricanes
and
flooding, not droughts and wildfires.
Right.
How do you reconcile these
Well,
things?
because like you said, when you look this way and you look that way, you're looking at water. We're in the middle of water, but we're in the middle of the wrong kind of water, and that's why we're needing these kind of machines.
There is hope El Nino will bring rare October rain, but this battle could last months, with the latest forecast putting the wedge close to New Orleans in the next 3 weeks.
But it's happened 2 years in a row because this is considered to be a pattern.
Lieutenant General Russell Honore led the military recovery efforts after Hurricane Katrina and says that was the first disaster that made him consider the costs of climate change. Now retired, it is the focus of his work as an environmental activist in his native Louisiana.
For the first time in my life, a couple of weeks ago, the governor declared a wildfire emergency. I've never heard that in Louisiana before. This time of the year, we normally go to church on Sunday, the priests are praying for no hurricanes. We need to turn that and ask them to start praying for thunderstorms. You know, yesterday we had floods in New York. Who would have thought? This time of year, the floods are in the Gulf, not in New York, and the city flooded. So the climate is changing quicker than we're adapting.
But there are some chances for rain in areas along the Mississippi River. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has the very latest. Matt?
Yeah, Clint, glad you mentioned that. This is something that's been ongoing, the river level of the Mississippi River, and that it has been down. Now, we are going to get some rain in there, but what we really need is a number of days with substantial rainfall along the Mississippi River. The good news is that the rain that's going to be coming through for our Thursday is going to line north to south. So all that rain or that water will try to drain down. But obviously, with how big the Mississippi River is, it's not going to have a huge impact on that river level. Because once we get on the other side of this cold front, there is going to be some moisture back on the backside of this strong low pressure system, but a lot of it is going to dry out back down here to the south. Still some rain back up to the north, but in terms of moisture, it is going to be hard to come by once we get into our Friday.
Yields in the Fields on Ag Day is brought to you by Micro Essentials, the super granule that packs balanced nutrition into a single granule for uniform nutrient distribution, increased nutrient uptake, and season-long sulfur availability. Beating commodity fertilizers every time. Supercharge your yields with the Mighty Micro from Mosaic.
Go ahead, take a look at your screen here. This is coming in from Minnesota. Looking at off in the distance, clear blue skies and a few clouds. Todd sending this one in, celebrating those yields in the fields, kicking off soybean harvest. He says he's only done 80 acres so far, but he has seen yields in the 230s for corn and soybeans in the mid-60s. He adds the yields are good, but well below last year. I'll have more in your forecast coming up.
Officials say Ukraine, Poland, and Lithuania have agreed on a plan they hope will help expedite Ukrainian grain exports. Now, the Ukrainian Farm Ministry announcing the deal this week, saying it means that grain inspections would shift from the Ukraine-Poland border to a Lithuanian port on the Baltic Sea. Now, it's hoped the move will speed up Ukrainian exports through Polish territory. The grain would then be exported by sea around the world from a Lithuanian port. Experts say it's also hoped the agreement will help diffuse tensions over grain prices between Kyiv and Warsaw. Some California orchards are now on high alert for potential citrus greening disease. That's after ag officials confirmed Ventura County's first finding of an insect pest carrying the bacteria that causes it. The infected insect was found last month in a residential citrus tree in the southwestern area of Santa Paula. The discovery is a big concern because Ventura County remains the state's top producer of lemons and grows other citrus fruit. Another concern out of California for its wine sector. Smoke taint has emerged as one of the primary threats to the state's most lucrative crop. The California Farm Bureau says despite a growing body of research on smoke taint, scientists and growers say gaps in the still evolving science mean wildfire smoke continues to cause unnecessary crop losses and financial damage. It says in 2020, up to 325,000 tons of wine grapes worth hundreds of millions of dollars went unharvested in California due to actual or potential smoke damage. Sell it or store it? That's the question being asked right now during harvest. We'll search for answers with Michelle Rook coming up next. And later, an Iowa researcher has a weird ask. She'd like farmers in the state to send in their toenail clippings. We'll tell you why in the country. A quick check of the numbers shows that the number of people working in agriculture is growing. Using information from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, employment in ag stabilized in the 2000s, but has been on a gradual upward swing since 2010. In fact, ag employment rose from 1.11 million jobs in 2012 to 1.18 million jobs last year. Now that's an increase of 6%. Employment growth was the fastest in crop support services, which saw a 12% increase, and in livestock, which saw a 10% rise. As you pull crops out of the field, should you be selling them or storing them? AgDay's Michelle Rook gets some marketing advice for producers in Markets Now.
Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Kid Beadle with Paradigm Futures. And let's talk about some marketing strategies here. We're in the middle of harvest. Corn first. What do you think? Are we going to see more storage this year with a little more carry built into those markets?
We talk a lot with our clients about, what is the amount of this carry? Can it get any wider? And then, should we be storing or selling? Of course, basis levels have moved down toward, sort of typical harvest lows in the corn. I think the average U.S. corn basis right now is in the, 25 to 30 under area, which is, quite a bit less than what we'd seen through most of the summer when we were trading overs, of course. And then we look at the carry, which is, currently around 15 cents from Dece to March and about 28 cents from Dece to July. And we do the math on the interest rates. And of course, interest rates are quite a bit higher. A lot of farmers now stopping interest at 7.5 or 8% against a $4.50 corn future. And you're talking about, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5 cents a month to cover that interest cost. Well, we're getting more than that from the storage markets right now. And we're also looking at the potential for a normal seasonal improvement in basis levels. And it does make sense for the grower to take existing hedges or hedge two arrives, roll them ahead, and also to just, play for the idea that we are going to see some higher corn values at some point in the future to pay for that storage.
If we don't have room to store everything, is it more likely you're going to sell soybeans versus corn?
It absolutely is. When you do that same math, you're talking about something that isn't worth $4.50, but worth, between 12 and 12.50 a bushel. The easy math on 12.50 a bushel and 8% interest, both are on the high side of where we're at right now, but that equals out to $1 a bushel to carry soybeans for a full year, or approximately, 8.5 to 9 cents a month.
Thanks for the advice this morning, Kent Beadle with Paradigm Futures. We'll have more Ag Day coming up.
Ag Day is brought to you by AgroCarbon. AgroCarbon works with farmers and ranchers to implement sustainable practices on farms and ranches that provides a new revenue stream. AgroCarbon.com.
Now, I mentioned it earlier regarding the Mississippi River, and unfortunately, I'm not seeing a big shift in the river level. As we continue in the harvest season, those barges having a tough time moving that product along the Mississippi because of the river level being so low. Want to take a look at the precipitation outlook. This is October 9th through October 13th. Heaviest rain or more substantial rain is going to be more along the East Coast. And we've mentioned before, the source region with this cold front sweeping through is going to bring in some of that Atlantic moisture. The same situation with the Gulf of Mexico, resulting in more rain in and across parts of Florida. Dry back out here towards the Four Corners into Texas and Oklahoma. Now, going forward, it's going to be more about these low pressure systems trying to bring in that moisture up and along the Mississippi River. But as we settle into October and of course next month, the likelihood of getting that river up gets lower and lower as we dry out that atmosphere. By the climate, it tells us that atmosphere will start to dry out the deeper we get into the fall, especially into winter. As for that jet stream into the weekend, so there's that pressure, low pressure system, that trough digging across the United States. So dry and warm back out here towards the west with warmer than average temperatures all the way up into Montana. And then below average temperatures back into the Midwest, north to south. This is going to be digging in and across Ohio, Wisconsin, as well as into West Virginia. going into the end of the week. And you see how that system kind of rotates back up on itself and dominating a good portion of the Northeast. What's concerning is that with the warmer waters in the Atlantic this time of year, that energy will continue to start to wrap back up into the Northeast and could see some heavy rainfall over a number of locations for an extended period of time. Again, there's the jet stream for you Monday. Go ahead, take a look at your screen. We're talking about Iowa. Pella, sunny, high around 76 degrees, low of 45. Cut Bank, you read that right, Cut Bank. There's actually 2 of them in the United States. Bonus points if you know where the other Cut Bank is located outside of Montana. High around 52 degrees. In Del Rio, Texas, high around 88, partly cloudy skies.
AgDay is brought to you by AgoroCarbon. AgoroCarbon works with farmers and ranchers to implement sustainable practices on farms and ranches that provides a new revenue stream. AgoroCarbon.com.
Beef is critically important in several states, including Nebraska, where beef ranks #1 for ag production in that state. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan found out at the University of Nebraska there's a new focus on feedlots, one that could answer questions of both today and tomorrow.
What was a blank canvas now shows signs of progress. This aerial view will give you a hint of something grand currently taking shape.
The Klosterman Feedlot Innovation Center here at the University of Nebraska is really a commercial scaled research facility, meaning we'll have 60 head per pen, different housing systems, and we're hoping to do a lot of innovations, be a test bed to evaluate new technologies, and really do more and better things than we've ever been able to do in the past.
The $7.4 million project should be finished in early 2024.
So we'll actually be able to evaluate 4 different ways, facility types, if you will, for feedlot cattle. That allows us to evaluate not just traditional measures that we do, such as how much do cattle gain, what's their feed conversions, what are the impacts on carcass traits. Those are traditional measures we'll do in all experiments. What's unique about this is all of the other measurements we're going to do, such as what does that do to the environment for the cattle and cattle behavior, animal welfare, stress, and so on. What does that do for animal health outcomes, such as lameness, BRD, etc. And then what's it do for our environmental issues? In other words, what's the effect of the cattle on the environment?
Erickson says it's exciting to see the project come to fruition, especially considering it will also be an extension of the classroom.
Most importantly, we will have a student experience opportunity. So if you're an undergraduate student, and more of them have interest in beef production, but with less and less beef production experience. And there's nothing better than getting a commercial scaled experience to really know, is this for me or not?
As the project continues to build excitement, Erickson hopes it will make a lasting impact for years to come.
So I think that the question we will have is, what are ways we can produce cattle more efficiently, better product, maybe less stress on the animal, and hopefully less impact or even positive impacts on the environment.
All right, thanks, Tyne, and make sure you look for Tyne at today's World Dairy Expo in Madison, Wisconsin. She'll be holding a panel discussion at 9 a.m. for our sister newscast, U.S. Farm Report, where they will talk all things dairy, and we'll have coverage from this year's event tomorrow on AgDay. Up next, a wild request from a researcher in Iowa. Why they're asking for farmers to send their toenails in, all in the name of science.
AgDay is brought to you by AgoroCarbon. AgoroCarbon works with farmers and ranchers to implement sustainable practices on farms and ranches that provides a new revenue stream. AgoroCarbon.com.
Now here's some scientific research from the farm we never saw coming. Iowa farmers, this is for you specifically. One researcher wants your toenails. Anna Proctor of the University of Iowa is collecting samples of toenails for a study she will conduct later this year. Now she says the clippings will help assess farmers' potential exposure to arsenic, pesticides, and other chemicals. Essentially, she wants to take an inventory of pollutants that may be in farmers' bodies using toenails as the biomarker. Why toenails, you may ask? Well, they can provide a 6 to 9 month record of a person's exposure to possible contaminants. They're also easier to collect, handle, and store than things like blood and urine. Proctor, who recently worked inside Iowa hog confinements, hopes this research will one day provide Iowa farmers with information that could help them better protect their health. So, how can you take part? Again, this is just for Iowa farmers. You just have to send Anna an email and she will provide you with a collection kit. We have the information on how to contact her up right now over at AgDay's Facebook page. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in Farm Country.